Greetings from Northern California and verdant Sonoma Raceway. It's time to go racing for the first time in 2025 for GT America, powered by AWS. Mixed class, single driver, sprint racing. Very much at the heart of this SRO America paddock for many, many years, and we're about to do it all over again with a new cast of characters joining some of the established stars of the series. And it all gets started right here at Sonoma. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. Amanda Busick will be patrolling the pits over the course of this race here today. But Cal, over the years, GT America has both put on a great show for spectators, but it's also helped to identify some stars of the future, and we expect it to reprise both roles here in 2025.
Absolutely. It's been simply spectacular racing. 40-minute sprint as a flat-out run on these Pirelli P0s. George Kurtz is back. He is fast here in qualifying this morning by a significant margin, but I think the rest of the pack going to be close to his heels here as we get in race conditions. Nice warm day, probably the warmest we've seen it here all week. Low 60s ambient, and everyone's up on the wheel and ready to go.
Exactly right. Two classes, SRO3, which is effectively GT3 plus some of the older GT3 cars that are out of homologation. They'll be joined by GT4. And later in the season, GT2 will join the party as well. You mentioned George Kurtz, very quick in qualifying. Only running a partial schedule this year, but making the most of it by putting his Mercedes on pole for SRO3. However, in GT4, some new names and some returning stars as well, with Anthony McIntosh taking the top spot, but Matt Travis back in the SRO America paddock on a regular basis after taking a year away by and large. Great to have him back, and he'll start on the outside of the front row.
Yeah, he's always a force to be reckoned with, just so smart and savvy with his racecraft. So here he is, he's ready to rock and roll in that NOLA Sport Porsche. They're always a factor every time they rock up here.
We talk about how this series has helped us identify some stars of the future. We certainly saw that last year. Remember Isaac Sherman? Frankly, we didn't have many notes on him coming into this weekend last year, but by the end of the season, we knew his name really, really well. Won the GT4 championship and now is racing in the big show, GT World Challenge America, later on today. Any names that have your attention that could come to the fore?
Well, I think for Justin Rothberg, he came into this championship last year with not a ton of experience. He learned very, very quickly. He got race wins by the end of the year. He's back for a full season campaign with Turner Motorsports. He'll line up right behind George on the second row of the grid. He and Robbie Foley, his teammate in GT World Challenge, won that Pro-Am championship last year. So I think there's a lot of confidence there. But having said that, Justin comes into this weekend with really no seat time since Indianapolis last fall. So he's trying to get a fast track here and get back into a rhythm here at Sonoma Raceway.
That's tough to do, to shake off all the rust, and he had less testing than just about everybody else up and down this grid. And a daunting place to come and try and shake that rust off here at Sonoma Raceway. This configuration, 12 turns, 2.5 miles, but it's really the elevation change of this place that makes it the challenge that it is.
It really does. It's immensely challenging. They've sealed the track since last year. There's some patches out there, so you're kind of learning the new nuance to this race circuit as well. But I think, I say it repeatedly, but any track that has a ton of elevation change, if you're on debut here, it makes the learning curve even more steep. So there's certainly some learning going on. That 69 car was really quick here this morning with Anthony McIntosh taking the GT4 pole.
Exactly right. Anthony, who is amassing a wealth of experience in a short amount of time, multiple cars, different types of cars, series all over the world, but bringing that here to GT America, powered by AWS, and immediately announcing his presence by going to pole for the JTR Motorsports engineering team that we've seen in single-make Porsche racing, MX-5 Cup racing over the years, a little bit in GT4 too, and now really going all in with Anthony McIntosh in this program this year. I think that little team could be one that might break out as well. We're not just talking about drivers, but teams can use this to showcase what they're made of too.
Absolutely, and we just saw a shot there of Mirko Schulteis in the Callaway Corvette. New livery, certainly getting everyone's attention, both on the racetrack and off. He's a real character here, and he's always up for a race. He doesn't always qualify that well, but boy, when it comes down to fast race laps, he suddenly seems to turn it up.
Pretty stout in qualifying today, though, to line up third overall. Third, of course, in the SRO3 class as well. Engines are fired. It's 14 cars in total, split evenly between the two classes. And over the years, Cal, the interplay between SRO 3 and GT4, that has settled a fair few of these races.
It has. It's a short 40-minute sprint, but there is the chance that we may have some of these SRO 3s catch the tail end of the GT4 pack before the end of this race and create some opportunities in traffic, and there's a battle, whether it's for the lead or a podium place here today.
You've had the whole off-season to sit and think about this. The first race jitters, how real are they? They're
real. I think once you get the car fired up and get out there, get on this single formation lap, that will certainly ease things. And you're just anxious. You don't know about the competition yet, who's going to show up, who's going to maybe move the bar a little bit higher. But certainly George Kurtz, in very cool conditions this morning, got his Pirelli P0s up to temperature and up to speed the quickest, and laid down a bionic pole position lap.
And the fun part is they may not know what the pecking order is, but we don't either. We're about to find out here together in just a few short moments. These cars rolling out onto the track for the formation lap. Only one scheduled formation lap, but the stewards could potentially decide to add a second. If they do so, the clock will start at the completion of the first. It is a very packed schedule, one of the things that makes it SRO America weekend so tempting as a fan. Non-stop action, but it does mean everything is condensed. And even if temperatures are cool and you would ideally like to have an additional formation lap, that's going to need to come out of the race time. We'll see what the race control folks elect to do. Let's go ahead and talk through the starting grid. George Kurtz is on the pole. Elias Sabo will start on the outside, recovering from a crash yesterday. Did a nice job to bounce back in qualifying. Then it's Mirko Schultes in the Callaway Corvette. Mark Mutzo in the SRO Motorsports Ferrari will start fourth. Kyle Washington, Justin Rothberg, and Ross Schwest, the rest of the SRO 3 field. Meantime, in GT4, it is Anthony McIntosh who will start on pole. Matt Travis will start alongside. Then Kurt Swearingen and Max Hewitt in the second row. Tim Savage back for another go-round, but this time in GT4. He ran most of the season last year in SRO 3, but in Aston once again. He is back in the championship. He'll start in 12th overall with Mark Krigler alongside Denny Stripling for Fast Track Racing, making just his third start in the championship. Will be out back in 7th in GT4, 14th overall. Well, as you can see, the decision has been made to go for a second formation lap. We were told to expect that, and it's a smart thing with temperatures as cool as they are. No tire warmers in any championship. Now, that's nothing new for GT America, but still no tire warmers to build those temperatures before you get to the formation laps. To have this extra lap to build those pressures, a smart move.
I think it is. I think just gives the drivers a chance to really get into a rhythm out there and generate a little bit more tire temp through weaving around and really working that brake pedal hard against the gas pedal to build up temperature through the brake upright and ultimately the wheel and tire.
Well, here is the grid again. It is George Kurtz and Elias Sabo on the front row. Callaway Corvette of Schultes and Mark Mutzo in the second row. Then Kyle Washington and Justin Rothberg and Ross Schwest out back in SRO 3. As mentioned, McIntosh on the pole, Matt Travis and Swearingen. Then for Vanderstur Racing, that's where you find Hewitt, Savage alongside, and then Krigler and Stripling at the back of the field. That's how they'll line up for the first race of the season. Thoughts as you collect yourself, Calvin, going into the first green flag of 2025?
Well, I think, looking at who's the favorite coming in, I think it has to be George Kurtz. He won this championship 3 years ago. He's got so much SRO 3 and GT3 experience now under his belt. He certainly seemed to be very confident in the qualifying sessions here this weekend. I think the CrowdStrike by Riley team have got a good Mercedes AMG underneath him. For Elias Sabo, I think it's been a learning process since they switched to that BMW platform in the middle of last year. They've got a ton more test time coming into this weekend, so I think he's going to be able to raise his game and start off at a much stronger point than he did last year with the Aston Martin and now switching to this BMW. Mirko, as we said, sitting there in P3, he can always surprise on race day. Great to see our SRO Motorsports back on the grid with that bright red and yellow Ferrari, Mark Musso behind the wheel. He does have experience at this level. He said he's just dipping his toe in the water this weekend. He's not out to make any big statements, but when you're that close to the front of the grid, I think you got the eye on the prize for sure.
No doubt about it. He can see it just out the windscreen in that red Ferrari with the yellow accenting. Great to have Remo Ferri's team back on the grid for the first time in over half a decade. Here we go. The clock has already started as we did do that second formation lap, but now we enter the acceleration zone in the pole sitter. George Kurtz in the CrowdStrike car, well, was getting ready to accelerate away, but we have a problem for Ross Schwest from Schwest Povolato Racing. This is the debut for this team with this Chevy Corvette, and it's come to a halt here, coming to the green flag.
Yeah, it looks like he's got life back with that race car. This is coming through turn 10. But they'll be in communication with the team to know if that car has got the potential to just make it at least to that pit lane entry or find a safe haven, but not wise to go green flag racing with that car sitting pretty much in the middle of the racetrack.
No, hate to see that for Ross and Aaron Povolato, the other part of the ownership group there, team based out of Louisiana. Put in a lot of work in the offseason, making the switch, having run different manufacturers in the past, but now making that jump to Corvette. And they've been thrilled with the performance so far, but now as they want to get going, something has gone amiss. Looks like they've got it back up and running though, and maybe Amanda can tell us more.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to add. They may bring it in, I'm not sure, but they were asking the official right now if they're able to catch up, as I see Ross go almost at speed here on the front stretch trying to get to the back of that pack. So hopefully he can get going so when the green flag does go here at race 1 at Sonoma, he can be competitive from the start.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. If you could check with the team and figure out what befell Ross, we'd love to know, but I think he's going to have to start behind the GT4 field.
I think so. The one advantage he's have with this basically a hot lap behind the cars rolling behind the safety car, he may be able to generate a little bit more tire temperature and be able to carve through that GT4 field pretty effectively.
It is warmer than it's been all week. Not exactly balmy by any stretch of the imagination, but how much do you expect this track will soak up that heat, and then how much do you have to plan for that from a setup perspective?
I think you do. You have to guesstimate a little bit. I don't think we've had anything that warm this week. I think the conditions may be a little bit better last week when some of the teams were testing here, so not a dramatic change, but again, with 40 minutes, you're not really having to manage your tires too much, I wouldn't think, for this sprint race.
Well, it's been a bit delayed, but the best things are worth waiting for, and the GT America powered by AWS season is now just a couple of corners from seeing the green flag, barring something surprising here in the next 10-15 seconds or so. On the front row, George Kurtz in the CrowdStrike Mercedes. He's got Elias Sabo next to him, Flying Lizard Motorsports and the BMW. Second row, Mark Musso in the Ferrari, Mirko Schultes in the Callaway Corvette. There's the green flag, and now the season is officially underway with Kurtz grabbing the top spot right away from Sabo. Callaway Corvette of Schultes slots in the third spot. Here comes Rothberg. Oh, he's going to charge here if he can, but he finds his way blocked as it's side by side in front of him. Kyle Washington in the Porsche trying to get the spot away from Musso.
Yeah, really nice job. Now the GT4 field comes to the green with McIntosh leading the way in that bright orange Supra. Rothberg getting back to that SRO 3-star. Looked like he made a big move around the outside. Got in the dust just like Swearingen is doing right here in that green and white Porsche. There's not much grip out there, it seems, in turn 2.
No, now that's got him on the back foot. Tim Savage looking to pounce. Tim's been quick this weekend, running in that dark-colored Aston. He has the BMW just behind from Denny Stripling, and there in that mix, of course, is the delayed Ross Schwest Chevy Corvette. We'll have to watch his progress, but first he has to make his way through the GT4 field. Battle is on here, though. Kyle Washington with Rothberg hot on his heels.
Yeah, Kurtz has just taken off. You see the gap he's already developed here over Sabo, who sits in P2 aboard the orange and black 511 liveried BMW M4. That's Schulteis sitting in P3, had a nice start there. Rothberg got to get into his rhythm here. Looked like Washington had his elbows out early, couldn't quite make some of those potential moves stick on the opening lap.
Yeah, Rothberg at the back of the train, not where he thought he'd be coming in. I think if you were talking championship favorites at the beginning of the season, Rothberg would have been in the consideration, having come close a year ago and having won the Pro-Am title in GT World Challenge America. Meanwhile, here's Ross Schwest making his way slowly but steadily through GT4 traffic. This has to be so frustrating, not the way you want your season to start.
No, it's all about learning this new Corvette, though. So, yeah, it's not ideal in terms of a championship opening salvo, but nonetheless, it's important that they got that car fired back up. Looks like it's got pace right now. So you just got to be careful, cut through this GT4 traffic, get some clean air, and get a read on this race car, which will really give the team very important information for the race later this afternoon in GT World Challenge.
George Kurtz building a massive lead at the front of this field after just a handful of laps, already 5 seconds clear of second place Elias Sabo. But Elias comes into this season feeling so much more prepared. They basically did they did do no testing last year. They took delivery of their car, which at the time was an Aston, right as the weekend began here a season ago, then made the switch to the BMW mid-season, so they had very little time to come to grips with it, but they've been testing a lot at the Apex Motor Club where Flying Lizard is based, and they feel like they've got their heads around this car. They're ready to go, both here in GT America and in GT World Challenge.
Yeah, and I think they got some help from some BMW factory parts. They drafted in Nick Yellowly to do the Indy 8-hour last year. That gave the team a lot of direction. Also, Jesse Krohn, who's a real ace in one of these race car BMW factory pilot. He did some testing with them recently, so been really valuable, not only in terms of direction with the setup on the race car, but really a great aid in helping alongside Andy Lee, of course, who's the regular teammate for Elias, to help Elias understand what makes one of these BMWs tick.
Travis is dropping back, just went behind Hewitt and Swearingen as well in the span of just a couple of corners. It's very strange. Matt started on the outside of the front row, former GT4 champion in SRO America, and he's got his hands full with Denny Stripling here. Not exactly sure what is going on for Matt, but something doesn't seem to be quite right.
No, he's always on the front foot, just moving forward from wherever he qualified. So starting where he did, you thought he'd be threatening for the lead in the early stages of this race. I'm not sure if the car's just taking a while to come in, if he had a little moment, maybe got some marbles on his tires trying to regroup here, but it seems to have pace. I don't see any major technical issue here. Let's take a look here. See if he gets roughed up at all as we're coming through the high-speed S's. Max Hewitt that he's alongside there, and yeah, I think he did get wide through there, so maybe it took a couple of corners to clean those tires off. Been a lot of racing already here today. We haven't had much time in between sessions to go out and clean the racetracks. I'm sure offline there's a lot of marbles that you may pick up here today.
Nice job by Hewitt there from Houston, Texas. Interesting, we've got 3 of the 4 drivers in this little bundle here, all from Texas, with Travis and Hewitt, as well as Denny Stripling. Swearingen is the interloper from Tennessee in between, but a good job by Hewitt to get up into the second spot, graduating out of Toyota GR Cup, where he finished a competitive 9th in the championship last year in what is a hotly contested series.
Yeah, top 10 over there is really an accomplishment. There's a lot of really great young guns in that championship, so to finish in the top 10, Tim Savage here having a bit of a moment in the 007 Aston Martin. We've seen him campaign GT3 machinery in recent years, but makes the switch back to GT4. Assume there's some kind of technical glitch that he's just pulled it over to maybe do a Control-Alt-Delete, see if he can get some life back in that machine and get back underway.
Tim eager to get back in his GT3 Aston, and that is the plan at some point this year, but the car wasn't quite ready after they had some issues at the tail end of the year last year, and he told me, you know, sometimes things happen the right way, and he's really gone to work on his racecraft, and he's had some people say, you know, you can really learn some valuable lessons in the GT4 platform that will serve you well in the GT3 car, and he's viewing this as an opportunity to iron out some of the creases, let's say, at the start of this year in the GT4 car with an eye on getting back in the GT3 machine.
Yeah, I think that's a great change of direction in terms of getting some early rounds in, at least in a GT4 car, getting back into a rhythm. I think he's a really talented driver. I think he's got a lot of potential. And I think when he can, you know, make his performance a little bit more consistent, he's really going to make a statement.
This could be the year for it. His third year running with some regularity in SRO America, but right now that car shown still has stopped. And the Pro Sport competition team headed up by Dougie Livingston, who is celebrating a birthday today. Happy birthday, Doug. Not exactly the way he envisioned it, though, with his car stopped on track with 27.5 minutes still to go. Interesting that Rothberg has not made an impression here, Calvin. We check in with him once again, still fighting with Kyle Washington, who I know you think is poised perhaps for a breakout season.
Well, I just think he had so much momentum through 2024, puts together some great races in GT America and also in GT World Challenge with his teammate Tom Sargent. So they had a victory last year in that championship, and he's got a ton of seat time as well. They're based now at the Thermal racetrack with their new shop there for GMG, so they're getting a ton of seat time. He's doing like 5 different championships this year, so he stayed busy in the offseason, unlike Justin Rothberg, as we see the car in the safety vehicle now out there.
Yeah, that's
must be under local yellow there versus full caution, of course.
Got the safety vehicle there helping to cover the workers as they try and get Tim Savage's Aston to a safe spot. There's the Flying Lizard Brain Trust. Andy Lee waving at us. Bottom left is Owen Hayes, engineer extraordinaire. And Thomas Blum also in the shot. Strategist extraordinaire. A lot of smart people on that pit stand.
There really are. There really are just some of the best in the biz, as we say. And they try and analyze here and give Elias all of the information he needs. I think they'll be pretty pleased sitting in P2. I'm sure they'd like that gap to Kurtz to be a little bit less, but it just seems like that crowd strike by Riley Mercedes comes alive really quickly. So whatever they're doing, they're starting pressures or whatever George has got up his sleeve in terms of the confidence factor, we saw it immediately, even against some of the pro drivers in the first qualifying segment this morning for GT World Challenge America. George was out there and flying by them early, so that car comes to life. So we now see Rothberg coming to life as well himself, down to the inside of Kyle Washington. Nice move there. That was down into turn 4.
He'd been working on that for a couple of laps, just sizing Kyle up, and just the slightest little bobble opened the door. Rothberg able to jump through.
Now we'll see what he's got. He's got some clean air on the front end of that BMW. See if he can go chase down Mark Muso will be sitting there in P4 for our Ferry Motorsports. And again, I think it's harder. I mean, we talk about the great job that Justin did last year with multiple victories, almost clinching the championship in GT America last year. Ended up missing that championship by a single point to Johnny O'Connell. But when you're out of the saddle for so long, I think particularly with as much experience that he has, which is not a ton, it's going to take you a little bit to get that confidence back and get back into full race mode.
Was recognized in the offseason by BMW was Justin Rothberg with the BMW M Sports Drivers Trophy for the most successful privateer driver in the BMW stable around the world, and that was in part due to that runner-up finish here in GT America, but also the GT World Challenge America Championship. Across those two series, 6 wins, 16 podiums, and keep in mind this was Justin's first season racing at the GT3 level. Quite a debut.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, Turner Motorsports have got such a great team that they've got together there with the engineering factor as well. Robbie Fuller, his teammate, BMW factory pilot, of course. And, you know, Will Turner keeps it fun as well. I think it's a nice environment. It's not high stress. They do it seriously, but not at a high stress level.
Justin Rothberg up that one spot. That now has him into 5th. He's got a good view of this battle in front of him. We'll keep an eye on it too, but first we'll check in with Amanda.
Well, if history repeats itself, looking at Justin, looking ahead at battles, he was pretty good at being able to take advantage of those last season. I was just talking to Will Turner. They had a tire pressure monitor failure at the during qualifying that had them start 3 positions back. They do expect Justin to go ahead and make his drive forward. I was talking to them just about the limited seat time that he's had in this new car coming into the weekend, but said they're happy with Justin's development so far in this new car and feels like he'll be in prime shape in no time.
It's a good point, Amanda. It is a new car. It's still a BMW M4 GT3, but this is the Evo version, and by all accounts, they have made some big steps with that platform and got some of the few little gremlins that needed to be ironed out. Well, at this stage, everyone who's driven one of these BMWs has had great things to say.
They do. They've got experience in another championship, of course, here in North America, but talking to Robbie Foley about that yesterday, he said we really haven't done any testing on the Pirellis with the new Evo, so it's a bit of a learning curve there, but, you know, great to get that clarification on why he dropped down the grid. Essentially, there's a minimum tire pressure that must be maintained at 1.3 bar here throughout the course of the competition, whether it's sitting in pit lane or on the racetrack, and obviously with that tire pressure sensor not monitoring that, that means you're outside of the regulations, and that's consequently why I believe he lost his grid position and started at the tail end.
His next target is the Canadian Mark Muzzo, who is a veteran of Ferrari Challenge, has come close to winning Ferrari Challenge championships a number of times over the years. He's finished runner-up in the World Final on a couple of occasions and has been hooked up with this Ferrari Motorsport team in Ferrari Challenge for the bulk of his career. He's made some sporadic starts in what was then Pirelli World Challenge, but eyeing a trip south of the border once again, and great to have him as part of it, but also to welcome Remo Ferri and the Ferrari team back into the paddock. They've been gone too long as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. They put on such a great performance every time they showed up here, won championships over the years, and Mark did a couple of one-offs at his home track, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. As now we see this battle development here between Travis and Swearingen. So whatever Travis had going on, I think it was really just running wide, maybe getting marbles on the tires. He's got that cleaned off, and now he's back on the attack and charging forward up to P3.
Exactly. Final step of the podium, changing hands in GT4 to really good Porsche prep shops with NOLA Sport. Here with Matt Travis and ACI Motorsports from Chattanooga, Tennessee. And the owner-driver, Kurt Swearingen, behind the wheel in that predominantly green car. They've got a couple of cars injured here this weekend in Pirelli GT4 America, as Kurt Swearingen looks to back up some of the success he had a year ago.
Yeah, won that championship with Kai Van Berlo. He's got another great teammate this year in Riley Dickinson, so they're looking to repeat certainly, but it's going to be a tough order. There's a massive field, and it is stacked with talent this year.
The other car will have Dan Seville, joined by a combination of reigning Carrera Cup champion Luke Hartog, and when he's not available, it will be Kai Van Berlo coming back to join the team. So almost an embarrassment of riches when you're talking about Hartog and Van Berlo and Riley Dickinson. These guys know certainly single-make Porsche racing, but also these Caymans about as well as anybody.
They really do. So, and I believe they've really brought Kurt Swearingen on gangbusters in terms of, I mean, he's an intense guy. You see that, how methodical he is with working with the data and trying to analyze everything. And I think that when you got like these young kids who are just so fast that you can really then look at their data and try and cut and paste and put his performance on top of it, it really proved to be big dividends last year on the way to a championship.
Look in here at Max Hewitt, who is catching Anthony McIntosh. Good battle starting to brew between these two. Bright orange Supra for McIntosh and JTR Motorsports Engineering. In the meantime, it's Hewitt and the Vanderster Aston Martin.
Travis just laid down the fastest lap of the race in GT4, so he is absolutely flying in that NOLA Sport entry. See him just 2 or 3 seconds back. I'm not sure if he's got enough time unless these two start to fight out a little bit and slow each other down.
It's a distinct possibility, though. He was 3/10 clear of McIntosh and about 2/10, well, exactly 2/10 actually, faster than Hewitt on the last lap. not out of the realm of possibility, certainly. Plus, we have the mixed class nature of the race that's yet to fully emerge, but eventually the SRO 3 cars are going to be coming through this GT4 battle for the podium positions.
Could be all part of Matt Travis's master plan. You know, he's able to really analyze, and from a strategy standpoint, they've been on top of their game for so many years now. That's why they've won so many races and championships along the way. He'll know how many laps are left. He'll know what the delta is and how much lap time he needs to gain per lap. That math will be going on inside his head already. Great to see this Super. It's so competitive now in this GT4 trim. McIntosh, you said he's been a busy driver over the last 3 or 4 years, really. Multiple championships and seems to be super successful with every drive. So he's a great addition to this GT America field for this year.
Well, Cal, all in the last 2 years, 23 and 24, he's racked up an Italian GT Sprint Championship. He's won the Lamborghini Super Trofeo World Final title 2 times, nearly won it 2 times last year alone in 2 different classes. He's a Super Trofeo North America champion 2 times over, and also won the Porsche Endurance Challenge title in the GT3 Cup class last year. Ran Asian Le Mans over the winter, finished 6th and won a race. Doesn't have a long history of racing, but in a short amount of time, he is building up quite a resume and could be one to keep an eye on.
Will Turner there watching the progress of his young driver, Justin Rothberg, currently in P5. There he sits in the ladder creek. BMW colors. And this is just a weekend, I think, that he just has to look at, get some points on the board in both championships. On the back foot a little bit without any testing with this new Evo. Got to get back into the rhythm of hardcore racing, like we'll see both here and in the race this afternoon. GT World Challenge absolutely stacked this year with 19 cars, 14 cars in the Pro-Am division, which he and Robbie Foley compete in.
Great pairing they've turned into with so much experience on the pit box as well, helping them along. Schultes was under some pressure not so long ago, Cal, but he's been able to break free of this battle. That's let Rothberg focus in here on Mutso to try and take that position. And interestingly, Schultes is actually starting to reel in Elias Sabo just a bit. So 2nd and 3rd could be up for grabs.
Yeah, he trimmed a couple of tenths off that gap on the last tour of this racetrack. As we said, he just, not like a super duper qualifier, but he's always there or thereabouts. Become race time, he just gets into a rhythm and seems to drive forward.
Love seeing, and more importantly, maybe listening to the Callaway Corvette. Interesting that we have probably the oldest Corvette still racing in pro racing. I know there are a couple other Callaways that race in Super GT and maybe Super Taikyu in Japan, but this older spec C7 Callaway Corvette, and we also have the brand new C8 in this field too with Roche West. It's quite a contrast.
It really is, but that's what's great about balance of performance, where you can adjust the technical specs of these older generation cars up against the latest braid, the new Evos and such, to still maintain their competitiveness. And I mean, Mirko has such a great history. He just loves driving GM power plants. I think 99% of the race cars he's ever competed in have that GM American muscle behind him or in front of him in this case.
It's all because he had a Chevy Blazer as a tow vehicle back in his motocross days in his youth and grew to love the Chevy brand. Speaking of Mirko, let's learn more about him now. Amanda's standing by in the pits.
Yeah, standing by with his team right now, hearing that Mirko is really happy with that C7 Corvette. And I was talking to them about the livery. It's a very fun color pattern. It's actually, Sunset is a German soda that is now in a startup in Los Angeles. So they asked if they would rock those colors here this weekend. But one thing, I saw Mirko scooting around on a scooter, kicking off the weekend, and his fire suit is now of overalls. I just asked the team, what's that about? He said, oh, Mirko likes farmers. Is he a farmer? Nope, just likes farmers, guys.
Quite a character. And yeah, the Polliner Sunset, and if you're wondering, yeah, it is Polliner like the brewery, but this is a new venture with this non-alcoholic soda. I love the paint scheme, and as Amanda mentioned, the outfit is to match. This is where things are about to get interesting, I think, here, Cal, as we see the SRO 3 field come through GT4. So far, George Kurtz has handled it with aplomb. That was the last car he needed to clear. Now he's through the GT4 field, but the rest of the SRO 3 field is still in the midst of battling that mixed class traffic.
Yeah, and the nice thing is when you come up on that traffic and you have such a healthy lead like George has, it almost seems to go easier anyway. There's no panic, there's no stress where you're trying to force yourself down the inside of a corner when someone doesn't see you, and that you fumble around, lose a couple of seconds before you know it, the guy behind you is right on your tail. He's got a healthy 15, 16-second lead now for George Kurtz. Just remarkable. Basically a second a lap when you average it as we're 15 laps into this race. So dominant force. I mean, the car always rocks up here with a ton of pace. He and his teammate Colin Brown in GT World Challenge swept both races here at this racetrack last year. George has won a ton of races here, so no big surprise. And but he's not doing the full championship season, and maybe that factors into guys like Rothberg thinking big picture, thinking, okay, George is going to maybe dominate this weekend, but he's not going to be a factor for the championship. Let's just pick up big points and be patient here today.
Look here at Denny Stripling, driving for Fast Track Racing, Texas team, Texas driver with a Texas sponsor on that car as well. Lupe Tortilla made a handful of starts at their home race at Circuit of the Americas last year. That was, though, in Pirelli GT4 America, not in this series. Good to have Denny back, and hopefully for a more substantial portion of the schedule. Here's the difference side by side, or front to back, between the GT4 BMW and
right there, right on the tail of Elias Sabo. So Elias can't hang around. He's got to pounce right now. Otherwise, Mirko's going to be looking for the way through here for P2.
Yeah, quite right. Stripling gives way, lets this fight come through. Mirko trying to roll the power back in. Saw the back end twitch just a little bit. Closing in. Can he make the move on Elias Sabo?
Oh, Swearingen there a little bit wide up the hill through turn one. That's kind of the gray zone, the danger zone we'll call it, because you can go for a ride there. Apparently George Kurtz did that in a qualifying run here this morning. Got a little bit wide through turn one and ended up rejoining the track in turn three. So that's what can happen to you, particularly as we talk about the amount of racing. We've got a packed schedule here in SRO competition this weekend. Not a chance to clean the racetrack like you maybe could under normal circumstances, so the drivers have got to factor that in if they get outside that racing line.
Not sure if it was just traffic or if something else happened, but Rothberg has fallen off the back of Mutzo by a pretty considerable margin.
Yeah, Mutzo's right there with Schultes now, so it's a three-way battle for P2.
Swearingen very heads up there, left the door open. Wanting to hold up Rothberg. Swearingen not in much of a fight himself at the moment. Pretty big gaps on either side. This is not what Elias wanted to see. Bad place to catch traffic. Nothing Matt Travis could do. He's still pedaling for all he's worth, trying to catch the top two in class.
It's going to be tricky here. Likes to go around the outside, and Matt Travis just got to hold station, stay in the middle of the road. He's got a hornet's nest around him right now as Mirko looks to the inside. Very late, used that curb there for a little bit more racing room. I think Elias wisely took a slightly wider approach through turn 11 and clears the way for them both to survive that moment.
It didn't matter that time, but that's how GT4 traffic or mixed class racing can open up opportunities. Very nearly it provided the gap Mirko Schultes has been seeking.
Yeah, you called it before we even had the green flag here today that may be a potential, and with the green flag run that we've seen since the drop of the green, no cautions.
Whoa, that's Hewitt going wide, four wheels off at corner exit.
Gotta wonder if that was just a quick glance in the rearview mirror and seeing that faster traffic coming up on him, that he just missed his marks there.
That's what Matt Travis needs to get up there to be able to fight for second again, but he was in a scrum of traffic himself so maybe not able to take full advantage.
McIntosh is now 7.1 seconds down the lead in GT4. So that's really meant that Hewitt has backed up, maybe into the clutches of Travis before we see the checkered flag here this afternoon.
These races fly by, just 40 minutes, and we lost a good chunk at the very beginning to first the additional formation lap, but then Ross West, his car stopped on track, and that meant a third pace lap. West, by the way, has done a really nice job. This is his first time racing in this Corvette, and his lap times have been right there with the rest of the SRO 3 field.
They really have. If you take George Kurtz off the table, which is hard to do, he's leading this race, but from second down to seventh in class, looking at the fastest laps, they're within a 1/10.5 of one another, but George Kurtz has had about a 7/10 advantage over everyone. So yeah, you're right. Schwest has the pace and would have been a real factor in this race without that issue on the formation lap.
Yeah, here he is, and look, this isn't the result he's looking for here today. That put him on the back foot right away, but it's something they could take and move forward. They have another race still to come today in GT World Challenge America, where he and Aaron Povolato will share this car. And it just has to be heartening to know that they should be there, ready to mix it up based on the way this race is played out.
Yeah, I think that's the case with a few of these groups. Certainly, CrowdStrike by Riley leading this race. You got the Flying Lizard entry in P2. They'll take forward some of the information, as will Rothberg for Turner, as will Kyle Washington for GMG, as well as Ross West with Schwest Povolato Racing.
Whatever was ailing Rothberg, that seems to have been addressed, because he's now run Mutso back down. Amanda checked in with the team, but they apparently didn't have any insight that they either could or would share with us.
I really feel it's just them letting Justin find his feet. I mean, I spoke to Robbie yesterday, and he said, you know, he did a really nice job just getting back behind the wheel in the first practice session that he was involved with. And he said, well, I just got to keep him calm, cool, collected, just think about the big prize of the championship. If we can walk away from this weekend with solid points, then we'll dust ourselves down and get ready for COTA in a few weeks' time.
He's been really patient, did make the pass on Kyle Washington. It was a fun battle to watch early in this race, but since then he's been stuck here. Now, the grid for race 2 is set by best lap in race 1, and Rothberg's best lap at a 37.51 is what, the second best?
I think it is, yeah.
So
front row, that's a totally different story from obviously being on the back foot with that technical infraction in qualifying with the tire pressure sensor not operating. Here comes Travis. He is caught Max Hewitt.
Cue the Jaws music. Matt Travis is on the scene.
Oh, he missed the corner there.
Yep.
Asked a lot at turn in. It didn't respond. He had to just give it up. See that little twitch there? He really tried to load the front end and just got a little bit of an understeer there, and it kind of missed the groove there, and you just go run out wide. You got to correct that immediately, as he did, and regroup, reset, get back on the attack.
First race for Hewitt in a GT4 car. And here's the challenge for the next 5.5+ minutes. You got to fend off a 2-time GT4 champion, Matt Travis.
This isn't going to be easy for Hewitt. He's really got to focus here, make minimal mistakes. Otherwise, Travis will just be sitting there licking his chops.
Took a good chunk of the season off last year, did Matt Travis. Kind of picked out a handful of events he wanted to go and run. Got the chance to run at Spa in the support race for the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa, where that team made an impression with their tuxedo t-shirts and unique sense of humor that, for the record, I rather enjoy. But one of the highlights of my year last year was at the parade downtown in Spa, bumping into Matt in his tuxedo t-shirt and just watching all the locals kind of stop and gawk a bit. But he's perfectly fine with that. That is in his wheelhouse, and right now, as comfortable as can be behind the wheel, he's got 4 minutes 20 seconds to try and plot a path past Max Hewitt. This is for second in GT4.
He's really charging. You see a couple of times we talked about that entry at turn 3, this next corner where he missed the front end a little bit, and then in turn 2 he did the same thing there, just He's asking a lot of the front end of that Porsche and has given up on him a little bit. So I think he just got to control his aggression here a little bit. Just find where the sweet spot is, how much he can ask from those front tires.
Schultes now finds himself under some pressure. Here comes Muzzo, the Ferrari. Elias Sabo has scampered off. He is comfortably out in front now of this battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah, Rothberger's right there. He hasn't really done it by running exceedingly fast lap times, but he's just been consistent. The others have been stymied a little bit in traffic, but it's really compressed this little battle here, which is for now P3 with Sabo a little bit further down the road.
3.5 minutes to go. Let's head down pit side once more. What do you have, Amanda?
Yeah, and Ryan, these two drivers know each other from Justin's time in racing and Ferrari Challenge as well. Actually, if you go back to 2023 at a race in Montreal, Justin was able to eclipse Mark Musso on one of the last laps. It was a rain race, but Justin got that last stop on the podium. So hopefully there's no flashbacks for Mark of that moment. But in talking to our Ferry, Mark was here just a couple of weeks ago during the Ferrari Challenge kickoff weekend. He wasn't racing in competition. He was using the lap times in their club challenge portion of the day to just get more experience here at Sonoma in that new 296.
He's under a lot of pressure here, Calvin. Left the door open a crack, and boy, that was close.
That was so close. I mean, Rothberg was going for it. I could not believe that he stoved his nose down into the inside of 3A there. How they missed each other, I'm not sure, but they continue. That was really tight.
Now, maybe it's some of that familiarity that Amanda referenced. These two have raced one another, although it's been a couple of years now, and now the difference is instead of two identical Ferraris, we've got a Ferrari with its set of strengths and weaknesses up against the BMW with its own unique set of strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, I think Rothberger's coming alive here. He's got the bit between his teeth. I think he's back into full race mode here, and you can sense that he wants a little bit more. We talk about being patient, thinking of the big picture of points in the championship. I think when you competed against someone, I think Amanda brings up a great point that he's had battles before in another championship with a driver immediately in front of him. Maybe he feels, you know what, I got the measure of this man. I'm going to go and take this position away.
They're pushing hard. This deep into the stint, Muzzo just did the best Sector 2 of anybody in the race here so far. In fact, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, all with personal best middle sectors on this lap. Down to the final 90 seconds. No white flag, so it will be this lap and one more. George Kurtz, by the way, comfortably 19 seconds ahead of the Elias Sabo BMW in 2nd. Then you get to Mirko Schultes just ahead of these two in 3rd. But the best fight on the track might be this one. Muzzo in the Ferrari and Rothberg in the BMW.
Yeah, I spoke to him yesterday, and he said, no, I'm just here to learn.
Whoa.
Oh, mistake by Rothberg, just loses the front end, missed his braking point a little bit, and tough corner. You really got to be exactly on line there, otherwise that's going to happen to you. So now we focus on this battle for P2 in GT4. Travis trying to find a way through this Aston Martin from Van der Steur.
Yeah, Hewitt's got to hang on now for 24 more turns, 5 more miles. Just about 2 minutes of time, and he's got one of the hungriest drivers you'll find right behind him. Look at Matt Travis leaving it all out there, slinging the car through the first sector.
Yeah, I think he was trying to tighten it a little bit coming through turn 3 there to make a move down in the brake zone, but Hill was certainly up to that task. He's really strong in that brake zone there. There we see the man who's dominated this race so far.
Oh, he scampered off into the distance, and we've hardly seen him. Such has been his advantage. His best lap of the race is 0.6 of a second better than what anybody else has mustered, at least. As the white flag flies at Sonoma, race 1 of the GT America powered by AWS season. Took us a while to get to the green flag, but once we have, it's been non-stop with George Kurtz pacing the field, but battles happening all throughout the field behind him.
Who's also come alive here a little bit later in the going is Kyle Washington. I expect a lot from Kyle this year based on the season that he had in 2024. A bunch of testing in the off-season. He's now got up on the wheel. He's not that far behind Rothberg here in the late stages.
Similar domination in GT4. Anthony McIntosh coming around. He'll see the white flag in just a few short moments. This is now the fight for second, and it's happening nearly 10 seconds behind him. Max Hewitt will need to do it one more time. Just 2.5 miles to go. Can he hang on? Oh, now Schultes is under pressure once again. The ebb and the flow of this fight has been something to behold. Schultes in the Corvette. He's got Mutso in the Ferrari right behind him, and they're waiting to pick up the pieces. In the background is Justin Rothberg.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. I talked about Kyle Washington. I think right now he may have the second fastest lap of this race, so that could move him onto the front row for tomorrow, unless someone can spring a surprise with the fast lap here in the last tour.
Seen some remarkable sector times here deep into the running on these Pirellis. They're holding together nicely. George Kurtz through turn 11. The left-hander of turn 12 still to come. He returns to GT America powered by AWS and returns to victory lane. George Kurtz, crowd strike by Riley. Take race one here at Sonoma Raceway. Elias Sabo set to come through for a great second place result, and Mirko Schultes does hang on, but barely. Fending off the challenge for Mark Mutso. Justin Rothberg up to 5th. Kyle Washington coming to life late in the going. He is 6th.
Yeah, and he grabs that second fastest lap behind Kurtz, only 4/10 off the leader's pace as we see this battle intensifying. Just 3 corners to go. Travis all over the back of Hewitt.
Hewitt's got his mirrors full of the Cougar on the hood of Matt Travis's Porsche. Can he get the run through the chicane to make it lunge to the inside? Hewitt doesn't feel enough pressure to go defensive. It looks like he's had enough to get the job done, as has Anthony McIntosh, who picks up the win, his first in GT America powered by AWS, but second place goes to Max Hewitt and Vanderster Racing by just a fraction of a second over Matt Travis in the NOLA Sport Porsche. Wow, that was worth the wait.
Never disappoints. GT America, some of the best racing we have all weekend long, consistently. See George now running out wide, try to pick up the marbles. These cars have to go through post-race tech where minimum ride heights and things like that and weight have to be met. So there's still some work to do even after the checkered flag.
Wow. Well, let's catch our breaths and take a quick look at provisional race results from the opening race of the 2025 season. George Kurtz by 15 seconds in the final analysis over Elias Sabo. Great bounce back from him. Had the incident that had this car in pieces yesterday in the paddock, but the Flying Lizard crew did well to put it back together, and Elias drove a great race. Mirko Schultes completes the podium in SRO 3. GT4, Anthony McIntosh victorious. Great job for him and the JTR Motorsports engineering team. Max Hewitt just barely hanging on. It was 0.15 of a second at the stripe. Hewitt over Travis. Kurt Swearingen finishes in 4th ahead of Stripling, Krigler, and Savage. So that's how race 1 will conclude here at Sonoma Raceway. Congratulations to George Kurtz, your overall winner.